And welcome back to another episode of Five Questions with the Paulist Fathers. And today we head out to San Francisco, one of my favorite cities in all the United States, and to Old St. Mary's Cathedral. And the pastor there is the Reverend John Ardis. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning, Mike.
And Father John Ardis and I have caught up many other times when you were in Boston and in New York and other places. So it's good to have you back. And the first thing I wanted to ask you, question one, is what is San Francisco's Chinatown like right now, where the parish is that you are?
So, well, unfortunately, Chinatown is totally closed down. All of the restaurants and all of the shops have been literally closed down since March 15th, including our own bookstore, which is right on Grant Street in Chinatown. You could almost roll a bowling ball down the street, as they would say, and not strike anyone. There's that little movement in all of Chinatown right now.
Wow, I know Father Jack Collins, in the interview I did with him, said the same thing about Midtown Manhattan not long ago. It's just hard to imagine how empty this all must be. And so question two is, what do you miss most about pre-COVID life?
So, well, what I really miss are our people, our regular people, and we really have kind of two audiences here, or two different kinds of community here. For the most part, we have our weekend people, which are really are the people that support our community in a big way, and many of them are elderly, many are Chinese, because we're Old St. Mary's Cathedral and Chinese mission, so we originally had a distinct and separate Chinese mission, and that got incorporated fully into the church. And so we have one of our 4 weekend masses is a bilingual mass, and which is pretty much totally Chinese Cantonese speaking people, and the rest of the community, I would say, at each mass there are Chinese members of our community at each of the other masses, probably more second or third generation, where English would be, probably their primary language, as well as many other parishioners. But so I really miss our people. Those are the weekend people, and then the weekday people are, we're literally just on the edge of the business district, right here. So we have normally 2 weekday masses, which we haven't had since March 15th, but and particularly the 12:05 mass would bring in a lot of the weekday people that would come as part of their lunch hour, maybe come once a week, maybe many that come 5 times a week. And so I miss not seeing our regular faces. Also, San Francisco normally being a huge tourist destination, there really are no tourists at all. And on the weekends, probably sometimes close to half of the people at any given mass might be tourists. And so I miss the interchange of people. Many come from other parts of the country or Canada where they've had contact with the Paulists.
Right.
Many they've had a fondness for Old St. Mary's, and maybe come to San Francisco once a year, and this is one of their places where they always go to church, so to speak, when they come to San Francisco. So I miss that interconnection with people.
Yeah, and we're on the same page. And question 3 I wanted to ask you is, from my recollection when I was at Old St. Mary's a few times, it was a place that really largely served the needs of tourists. So what part of reopening eventually is going to be hardest for you at St. Mary's with a large tourist population?
Well, my gut level is it will be quite a while before we see a lot of tourists back. Although one of the hotels that's closest to us, the Hilton Hotel on Kearney Street, about 4 or 5 blocks away, has actually called back a number of its employees, and so they are actually starting to see people returning. But I think I had staff in just minutes before we started this conversation, and we've been deep cleaning the church so that we will be ready when we get permission. We've made a decision that when we do reopen, that we'll reopen just for private prayer. And hopefully within a couple weekends of that, we can start weekend masses again, is our thought at this moment. But we're envisioning only being able to open maybe about 4 hours a day, because the restrictions here are that once someone in a sense sits down or kneels, that
right.
As soon as they leave, that space needs to be clean.
Yeah, clean, yeah.
And so, but they've figured out right now that we can probably have about 75 to 80 people using the whole church for like a Sunday mass at this point, once we're able to start. The city itself, in the restrictions in the state, are 100 max, but given being able to spread people out, probably 80 households, 100 max, I guess, would probably be looking at it, because obviously some people come in 2s, 3s, or 4s,
right.
But probably more of our people are 1 or 2s than they are coming in larger numbers.
Sure.
Households. So.
Sure. That sounds about right. It sounds like a good kind of 2-stage process there. And on a lighter note, question 4, what's your favorite pandemic quarantine food?
Well, pretty much all we've been eating is Italian. Unfortunately, we lost our cook who would cook dinner for us 4 nights a week, and so I worked out an arrangement with a local Italian restaurant, just because we had some conversations previously, and so I worked out a deal where he prepares the food 4 nights a week, and I drive by and pick it up. He prepares 8 meals so that we have a little bit of leftover, and I worked out a deal where we pay him $100 per night, which is
wow.
Which is pretty reasonable for food and high quality food. So it turns out he asked during Holy Week, he was really struggling to keep his employees on, and so he made an offer that the other 3 days a week, if we would do it, he would deliver it for the same price.
Oh, wow.
And so we've been eating Italian for the most part 7 days a week. I try to give a variety within that as much as I can for the other guys in the house. I being the youngest of those of us that are living here right now. But we did, I asked Raul, who runs the restaurant, for a night off on Memorial Day, and asked Father Everenden, one of our older priests, to if he might be up for grilling hamburgers and hot dogs for the holiday. And I think everybody appreciated just a change of pace from,
sure.
Kind of a big set meal to, hamburgers and hot dogs, and, with all the fixings and potato salad. We had a pretty good, and a fun evening together. We probably spent a little more time than usual around food that night. Normally we spend about 45 minutes to an hour, and we probably spent an hour and a half just, relaxing with each other. So, and fortunately, Michael did the grilling, so the rest of us could enjoy. I got Father Tom Davella earlier to slice the tomatoes and slice and chop onions so that, everybody could have whatever they needed for their toppings.
Sure, yeah. That's a good job for Father Davella.
For sure.
And I know you're such a big traveler, so this time's got to be killing you.
Uh,
What's the last question? Question 5 is, what's the first place you're going to go once the travel restrictions are lifted?
well, I was actually supposed to travel starting June 10th,
Uh,
but I've been slowly dismantling that trip as the cancellations allow, and I still have a few more pieces of that to cancel yet because I was going to be in Cabo and Puerto Vallarta, traveling between the two, and so I look forward to that trip at some point, but I'm waiting to find out. With with Deacon Paulo's ordination, whether how many are going to be allowed to come, and
right.
if that's a possibility, I know that I will be ready to. I know that I'll be ready to travel by the end of July if we can go, if I can go. So I'm kind of waiting on that, but otherwise I'm at this point I've never been to Asia, and
Oh,
so I right now I have a trip set for next January, a couple weeks in Thailand. Having never been, I've got a number of Thai friends, and they really want to show me their country, and so I'm hoping that that everything is good by then, and that there's a vaccine, and that I can travel safely without worrying the other guys in the house, which is obviously a concern of theirs if someone were
sure.
to leave, and the fear of them bringing something back at this point. So I keep saying to people right now it's one day at a time, but I am a little restless, I have to admit. So fortunately the weather here is good, and so it's not like I have to deal with winter or anything like that.
Right.
So
Yes. Welcome to
um,
my world. Yes.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, it all sounds good, and so I hope you'll be able to get back to that at some point. Um, but it's been great having you. San Francisco is one of my favorite Paulist sites. I've been there many times, and so I'm glad that you're all doing well, and that I hope that everything will start to get back to at least some sense of normalcy at some point.
Well, thanks. Hopefully, you know that you and your wife are always welcome. So,
Thanks.
and we've got a guest room ready for you. So,
The Hecker tour, as I like to say.
yes, exactly.
Well, Father John Ardis, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope that we'll see you soon, and that better times will be right ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. God bless.
And this has been another episode of 5 Questions with the Paulist Fathers. We'll see you all soon.